hold on. There we go. Now we're good. So you were about to make a prediction of me?
I'm about to make a prediction that you are headed for very, very big public recognition.
Well, I appreciate that. I
And
appreciate
you
that.
deserve it, and it's long overdue.
Keep going. You're doing great. This is the best podcast we've ever had. You were
And I
saying?
love you.
Love you too, hon.
And I
Yeah,
have,
it
I
was.
have exciting news.
Yeah.
And
Oh, keep going.
I'm afraid it's not about George. George is still missing.
George is fine. George is king of the jungle. I've said this to you before. Now you had the sightings like I told you were going to have, right?
Yeah.
You do know that like that's just his comfort zone. And when it gets cold, he'll find the place where he's supposed to be, and everybody
Okay.
will love him up, and then he'll get the itch in the spring again, and you'll be like, "Where'd he go?"
Okay.
It's how George is, but sometimes that's how people are in other people's lives.
I reckon he's something like a Leo ascendant, because Uranus would put Uranus on his midheaven, and he's getting international fame. You know, the whole of America is behind George being found. Australia, New Zealand,
You
everywhere.
you and that son of a gun calico. Did you ever think it was going to be a calico cat that would make you,
He's not
like
calico.
totally melt you? He's not calico.
He's a red tabby.
He's a red towel. Okay, all right, relax, relax, cat lady. Relax,
Listen,
cat lady.
some more very interesting news.
Yeah.
Gozo
Okay. Yeah.
is in total lockdown.
I know it's about time, and not in like a good unhealthy sort of way, like with a safe word. Like
No,
you guys have to
no,
stay home.
it's all over Facebook, and the ferries aren't running, and the police are all over the place. I have my theories,
And
but we do know that back in 1980 something, when Pan Am, the Lockerbie crash,
oh yeah.
um,
Oh,
Malta was a
I am
gateway.
picking up what you're putting down. I am picking up what you're putting down. I know you're not saying it, but really,
Really, seriously.
wow. Yeah, I think the whole world kind of is on guard here too, because I think we're about to talk about it with the astrology. We definitely have we're standing up to a lot of aggression right now astrologically. And for,
Is anyone out there? Have we got anyone watching us?
is anyone watching us? Yeah, I think so. I think we're kind of chiming in here. We got all sorts of people.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got like 37 people. Is that enough? Do you want to wait? You want to do like a telethon style? Like when we hit 50, we'll open up our first chart.
I've just got up the transits of the moment here in Gozo. The moon is void currently, and it's an Aries ascendant just currently. So I'm just kind
Yeah.
of, I want to look where Mars is. Oh, Mars is at home. Mars, the god of war, action. It's in the 4th house in Cancer. And of course, it's coming up to its opposition with Pluto, which is one of the aspects we're talking about big today.
Yeah, this is going to be a big deal. By the way, people are chiming in all over the world. Hello from India.
Okay,
I
hi
see some
everybody.
people from Canada. I'm seeing our friends down in Arizona, United States. I know. Oh, we've got a couple of Europeans here. Of course, your channel. That's why you're saying, part of the reason why we're doing this on both of our channels is to really cover the world.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's,
And
Penny's strength. Penny's really strong in the United States, and I only really kind of have a smattering in Europe. But she's all over Europe, so that's that's a plus one in that. But
see
yeah,
the
so they need a what?
you've seen the pictures?
I've seen the pictures. Yeah. Speaking of which, hello Germany. Um, speaking of which, it's funny how things are kind of getting rolled out right now here in the US. Just from a perspective, like what are you guys hearing? I know you rely a lot on Sky News, BBC, Al Jazeera, that sort of thing. What do you guys? How is it being reported right now internationally with our election?
It's gone kind of quiet, because the focus has been mainly on what's happening in other parts of the world. I'm going to be very
Okay.
selective about the words I use for obvious reasons. And
Yeah.
if there is anyone watching on Malta and Gozo, do let us know in the comments if you know what's going on and why Gozo is in lockdown and why the ferries aren't running.
Do you know how
Just
brilliant Penny is? She just said, "I can't say it, but you can."
that's right.
Fucking
That's
love
right.
I freaking love you.
So,
Like, really, you just have this level of, like the smart people love it when you act smart, right? And somebody's chiming him in here, Manuela, thanks so much, and I know you're a longtime watcher here. Um,
Andy!
right, she's commenting
Andy.
on the how it's a very close election, and it's, yeah, and it's funny because as much as the polls so here's the temperature. You're getting these pollsters, and let's not forget that the number one media economy is the 4-year cycle of the presidential election. Like, media companies make some serious cash during this part of the cycle. Like, it's everybody's buying ads, donor ads, whatever. And they're really kind of talking about it, the Harris poll, the Siena poll, the Quinnipiacs. They're all like polstering kind of in a vacuum, kind of a nip and tuck kind of race. One of the things that have been pointed out on this side of the pond is that, first of all, these polls have a distinct set of people that they ask. So once Brandon and Penny get into the queue, you and I are always going to get calls. So our opinions are kind of static, right? There has been such an incredible influx of new voters that there's no way the polls are carrying them. And the new voters are overwhelmingly plus Harris. And so as much as they're like, hey, we're at 51-49, Trump's a little ahead in in Pennsylvania. What they didn't account for is the 500,000 new voters, of which 400,000 of them are absolutely going Democrat. Yeah.
May I speak?
Yeah,
And I think
definitely.
it's important for everyone watching to know that we are going to stay totally neutral on this. We are not going to be bringing in any personal feelings about, I'm sorry, Brandon, but you're going to have to contain yourself. I'm sorry, because it's not fair. And the one thing about astrology is neutral, and
Mm,
astrology needs to be taken in the way that it is meant. And astrology shows the way, it inclines, it gives you a vision of a timeline that can unfold. And so
right.
that what we're going to do today with the astrology that we're going to look at, and we're going to keep this broadcast short and tight, like we did last time, and we're going to make sure that we stick to the facts. So I think, Brandon, it's ready to get the first chart up.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, everything I just said was fact based. So two of the things with that,
I'm not,
though, is that
I'm,
the dose of
I'm,
reality.
what I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I
Yeah,
do think
and
it's
I
important you
agree.
put a point. We have to stay neutral, and I'm sure everyone watching
Yeah.
will want us to stay with our personal feelings about the two parties and the two candidates out of it. Because actually, at the end of the day, and I'm sure most Americans would agree with me,
Mhm.
it's actually about the policies of both parties. The candidate is just the figurehead because they're going to be told what to do by a whole group of people that we don't
Yeah.
even know about behind the scenes. Am I right, Brandon?
Well, I think that there's the danger of I agree with you. When it comes to the astrology, it doesn't have political parties, right?
Mm.
God never wrote about the United States in the Bible. Like, there's nothing like so why do you bring it up? Why is it in politics? Why are these things here? The astrological point of view is the energy and the capture of it, right? The potential, the way that things can go, and the free will part of it. The question on the table, though, was about what was being reported. And I think that we also kind of understand, too, that astrology plays a part in why things become biased. and why things kind of speak to it. So as much as you and I can stay neutral to it, um, the neutrality part of the astrology is intact. My sovereignty of what I'm seeing and my gut feeling can't be denied,
And
because
that's
just like you have a gut feeling of what's going on in Gozo, in the public narrative is, oh, we have whatever, there's a fire, there's a bomb threat, there's a whatever, and you're just like, that's BS. I am
yeah,
telling you that everything that's getting reported in the US is BS. And it serves certain pockets, right? The
that goes for
astrology is,
Gozo too.
what's that?
That goes for Gozo too. Whatever
100%.
posted on Facebook.
you just you just dodge like a Ukrainian general right now. Why don't we
What
look at election day? Let's look at this cluster F.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
I I did it for 8 o'clock in the morning because I thought it's a kind of time people will start going out on the day. So
polls open anywhere from 7 to 9 o'clock. So that's a
o
spot on take on this.
okay,
And
okay.
using an East Coast time zone is perfect on this. I got to tell you, of all of this, the first thing that always pops out at me is, where's the friggin' sun,
Mm.
right? So you have Sun in Scorpio in the 12th house. It's in the Pisces house. It's in the house of the undoing. It's
Yeah,
in the house. It's conjunct. It's a wide conjunct Lilith. It's just moving
yeah,
out of that conjunct, and it's funny because in the greater, Lilith is currently in Gemini right now, and it's conjunct with Jupiter, and and that's kind of playing the card hand a little bit, to it, but it means that the secrecy comes out. All
and
of the
that
things that I just talked about was like, it'll get undone.
that's the whole point of this chart. The first thing that leaps out is the sun in the 12th in Scorpio, the sign of secrets and secrets revealed, and also underhand dealings. And then you look at the four quadrants, and you've got mutability on every quadrant. You've got Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, all flexible, mutable. This can go any way. It's like no one is going to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Sagittarius on that ascendant at the 0 degree, which I find fascinating,
It,
0, 0, giving it extra power, is
yeah.
about truth.
It's also about recreation. I
Yeah.
always describe the elements of astrology, where you have the cardinal sign, right? That's your Aries, and Aries, what have you. And you're in that position to forge ahead, right? That cardinal energy is very much about, like, hey, I've got a great idea. I've got a great idea. Let's do this, right? They
Yeah.
put all the parts on the ground. Then the fixed signs come in and say, well, this is the way we always did it. We always did it this way. So let's build this, and let's put this part, let's put slot A into slot B, and let's kind of start to construct something. And then it gets to the point where it doesn't necessarily work. And then the mutable signs come in and say, aha, let's look at it differently. Let's look at this in a creative way, so that then we see it in just, let's just let's hear what the cardinal had to say. Let's hear what the fixed had to say, and let's just come up with alternative solutions.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but then the cardinal energy comes in again and says, "Oh, okay, all right, let's start over again. We got some good ideas, let's start it over again." And the cycle begins again. Being mutable, I think, is both on an esoteric level and a literal level, is us recreating the wheel that we think we already have. So in the
Mm.
United States, we've got a bunch of really good ideas, but they are executed so poorly it's not even funny,
Mhm.
right? And,
Yeah.
and and that ends up being the conversation for me about this rejuvenation. And of course, the sun being in Scorpio is rejuvenation.
Yes, yeah, renewal, transformation. I think what's also super interesting is Uranus retrograde in Taurus in the sixth house, on the descendant, the result is completely unpredictable and
Yeah.
shocking and surprising, because my feeling is there is no there's like no easy way through this. There's not, it's not going to be cut and dried. It's
And
not
it's
going to,
personal.
yes, it's not going to be one or the other, or the other or the one.
Mm,
And if you look at Saturn on the IC in Pisces retrograde, we've got a lot of retrograde planets. So we're going back over, we're repeating. Things are going to get repeated over this kind of period of time. There's going to be going back and looking at, going back and counting, I guess, going back. I don't think the result is going to be clear right from the outset. I don't think anyone can know. But what we can't ignore is the Mars-Pluto opposition. On the day of the election, the Mars-Pluto opposition has just gone past because Mars has moved into Leo. But with
right.
Pluto, the anaretic degree of Capricorn, structure, the old way, the old order, the old
Yeah.
boys network, the old school, there is change. And Mars is saying it's second, eighth house. This, I hate to say it, but people might be going out on the streets and getting a little bit upset.
There's going to be a gunfight like we've never seen before, because it's going to be about everybody's rights. It'll be a lot of people that have gone through these placements. Let me express it as placements. Give a lot of people bravado of their thought process being right. It doesn't allow for new things to come in, except for the idea that we're moving into this, mutable time, right? This mutable idea. And
Mm.
one thing with Uranus in its
Mm.
retrograde, remember a couple of months ago we were making a big stinking deal about algal?
Yes, 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 yes.
Guess where Uranus is conjunct to algal this whole
Alcohol.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's, to me, that whole thing about unpredictability is that it's kind of like the evil has to rise, or the evil has to be shown, or the whatever the nefarious components are astrologically are going to get exposed, and it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go.
No, it's not. It's
And
not.
I will tell you that within my experiences and the things that I work with behind the scenes, they're worried, and they're not worried from a standpoint of fear. They're ready for every scenario, but they've got 100 scenarios in their head, and
Mm.
that's the challenge right now. I think it
Mhm.
also gives us an opportunity to expose that stuff that's not healthy.
Yeah,
That cardinal energy again, or that mutable energy is, let's take it and recreate it.
mm, the corruption. I've said it.
Yeah. Well,
Because,
and by the way, just to be not political, corruption's on both sides of the
yeah, oh,
aisle. It's
yes.
pervasive.
Yes. It's not just in the United States, though, it's worldwide. And this is what the
Good point.
whole Pluto move into Aquarius is all about. It's leaving Capricorn to completely deconstruct, to change, to push the whole planet to the point where it will not put up with the old boy, old school network. This is the rise of the divine feminine and the positive divine masculine. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
there it is. No, it makes perfect sense because it is duality, and it's funny, the idea of neutrality is that we need that kind of that push and pull. We need that dynamic where we have, that masculine and feminine energy. We're by nature, we are created into duality. And doing the right thing. I mean, I've watched a lot of those of you that follow me on Facebook know that I have posted some things that have been polarizing on purpose. And it's not necessarily 100% my belief, but one of the things that we were in awe of, the people that helped me monitor it, was that how woefully ignorant people were. And I'm not calling them stupid. I'm calling them ignorant. And it was about things like, well, why would we want a woman president? She's going to be in menopause. And that
Mm.
means that she's not going to make good decisions. Like, that is knuckle dragging caveman BS. And it does
I
not represent conscious men.
I made the best decisions of my life when I went through menopause.
Me too.
Now, Simi has just asked a very important. Yeah, that's very funny, Brandon.
I got that one through, everybody.
Simi has just asked a very important question. Will we have another January the 6th?
Only it won't be at the Capitol.
Okay.
I think it'll be in the States. I think it'll be in the very corrupt gerrymandering things that we've kind of dealt with, before in the past. And January 6th, I think one of the things that were so troubling about January 6th was that Washington was always sacred. We never let a foreign enemy get into it. We never let, I mean, the shenanigans of Congress or whatever were always part of it, but we never felt compromised at our core. One of the reactions and the visceral reactions in the United States is that we were compromised, right? We were compromised on 9/11. It was a shockwave. We were compromised on January 6th. We don't know what to do. And that's why emotions are running so high. And that's why it shakes globally as well. Are you also noticing too, one of the other trends that are going on is how much, like, Trump is denounced, and by the way, they're denouncing him, but they're not supporting Kamala necessarily. There are some, but it's almost like they're at least denouncing chaos. They're not even denouncing a man anymore. They're denouncing a linear thought of dictatorship. And if you told me 20 years ago there would be a man that would get enough votes that would be significant, that wants to be in in a dictatorship, I mean, it's the only way to describe it. But then you also look at the dynamic that there's enough people choosing that. Like, why do we want to give our power away? Let's look at this spiritually. Why would you want to give up free will?
Yeah.
That's,
Well, I don't
well,
want to give up free
logically.
will.
Well, going back to the chart, it shows a lot of, why would people want to do this? And it is
Mm.
that thing of like Uranus on algal, because you're
Yeah.
just like, I can't fight this. I have too many demons. Fuck that. You do the heavy lifting. I'm done.
Yeah, but we have to look for where the moon is, because the moon represents the people. It's in the first
Oh,
house of Sagittarius. It's conjunct Venus. So this is the divine feminine again rising up, saying we want to know the truth. This is almost like women taking to the streets like you've never seen before, saying
mhm.
FUCK this SHA1T. Because I'm not going to swear on YouTube.
Well, and listen, any sane person, like, I'm going to say this as a white male that's never been directly involved with a decision or a choice like this, but why would you ever take away something that was safe for someone, even if it wasn't something you wanted to do? And
Yeah.
if you're going to go down that rabbit hole, how long until they say, you know what, beer can be dangerous. We're not going to let you have it.
Mm.
The idea of having, things like guns, things like whatever. It's ironic from the dichotomy of the parties as to what they're supporting and not supporting right now. And that's confusion. And by the way, I blame Saturn on this one. I really
Mhm.
blame Saturn's positioning on this one.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because having Saturn, and Saturn's in retrograde, right? I got a list somewhere.
Yeah, Pisces, it's at 12 degrees.
Yeah,
It's at the
so
sea.
Saturn in Pisces is up is down and down is up. It's a great time for that mutable Saturn energy to come in and be like, we got a bunch of good working parts. but we have to kind of look at it a little bit differently. That's
Mm.
what Saturn's doing right now. And the fact that it's in the third house in this positioning tells me that this is about our communication. It's about how we talk.
Yes.
It's about the BS on the internet. It's
Yeah.
about social media. I mean, there is irrefutable proof that the 2016 election had influence by Russia. Did certain people know it or not know it? That's your debate. That's your business. But the fact that they were absolutely wholesale holding the hands and working the algorithm has been proven 3 times over.
Mm. Mm.
This, but in a blessing, it made us really look at it and say, what are we believing in? Why are we being swayed by misinformation, disinformation? And Saturn sitting there in the third house in retrograde is kind of like oh, you can kind of right this ship. You
Yeah.
can kind of do this differently. How do you think that affects Europe? Saturn
Well,
and
what I want to say is that with Neptune and the North
mm.
Node in the fourth house, so Neptune in Pisces, the sign it rules, confusion, breakdown, dissolution. There is not going to be a clear-cut way through or decision or conclusion from what happens from November the 5th. The
Yeah,
destiny of the United States is still not going to be clear. It is
yeah,
not going to be resolved through this election, if the election even happens, because I think with the immutable
mm,
energy, there may be events that happen on the planet that are,
mm.
chosen to
Oh,
happen at a
yeah.
certain time to mean that we cannot proceed on this day with what we meant to proceed with. Now, I don't really know what I'm saying exactly, but I think you will probably all just get the drift. And Pluto in the second house, opposite Mars in the eighth. Watch the markets that day,
Oh,
because
God.
what you're going to get is chaos in the stock markets. I think
Mm,
there'll be a huge surge towards buying gold, oil, silver, precious metals, and people are going to be absolutely ducking out of banking, anything like that. Corporations, institutions are just
mm.
going to plummet.
Well, and again, strictly astrologically speaking, having corrections like this are really important. The idea that, Penny and I can make our own sovereign cryptocurrency and it's become like a side product. Money and its money resources are actually meant to be a stabilizing force in a country.
Mm.
And part of the reason why so many countries were on the US dollar was because the US dollar was always stable. It might have had inflationary measures and it might have been better than other times. But ask any Canadian that lives near the border, they know what the exchange rate is because it's important, right? They know that if they're in Vancouver, or, whichever side of Vancouver they're on, it's a really important thing, right?
Mm.
Um, it's a double zinger in a lot of ways. And the financial things, I've been saying this for a decade now, ever since I've really been professional in this. They showed me a long time ago that a new economy is coming.
Yeah, yeah,
That whatever and again, it's scary times, but you got to talk to it.
yeah,
Your retirement, your all these things that you built up for might not exist the way you think it did.
yeah,
And that is frightening to people. That's going to make you take to the streets. That's going to make you become involved in something that you never would have been involved before. But the
yeah,
solace in this is that something better is coming. It's
yeah.
all of this stuff is setting up for a better thing. It just is, right?
It is. It's
Did we have
about transformation. And I want to point out Mercury in Sagittarius conjunct the ascendant, which has just gone past an opposition to Uranus. So I think that coming up to the election, there is going to be some news that comes out that completely changes the direction of everything. There is that because Mercury has only just moved out of Scorpio, secrets revealed. So Mercury, when it is in opposition a few days before this to Uranus, is bringing out secrets. There's going to be some really big shocks
Right.
leading up to this day. That's what my gut feeling says.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you where my gut feeling goes with this, but it sounds a little partisan, but I think that what's gonna get revealed is that Kamala has actually been running the White House for a lot longer than what we thought.
Right. And I just
You know,
want
to
Beth Hendrickson and agree, because you don't have the menopause at 60. You have the menopause in your 50s, 50, 51,
Oh, yeah,
52.
it's just ignorance.
So,
It's just sheer ignorance, but I think a couple of the reveals that could be coming is going to be things such as, finding out that Kamala had a lot more to do with running the White House than before we
mm,
thought, right? Much more than a vice president did. And a vice president is still pretty vital. It's not like you couldn't see her having some of those things, but I also think that, due to behaviors and due to pressures and cognitiveness, I think that they know full well that that they're trying to create a vehicle for JD Vance to get onto a national ticket. And even if Trump were to legally and successfully win, I think it would just be a matter of him stepping aside. Like I can't. There's nothing that man is doing that has anything to do with leadership there. And again, it sounds like I'm being biased. It's just name. He shows up 3 hours late to his rallies. He stages McDonald's photos. He's not doing anything to reach voters or to convince voters. He's just doing stunts. Where Kamala is running a campaign, she's actually using the old school methods. And I think that those are the types of things that are going to get revealed. I think we're going to learn a lot about how dysfunctional we really truly are. And it's pretty apparent already.
mm.
And
And
again, it's both
I
sides.
don't know if you want to bring up Trump with the Mars Pluto opposition, if
Yeah,
you've got it there, because
sure do.
actually I'm concerned about his health,
Big time.
because Uranus, he's had Uranus conjunct Algol on his midheaven for some time now. And he's already, I'm not saying there is going to be another aggressive attempt at him. There may well
Yeah.
be. I think his protection is good enough that can't happen. However, his actual personal physical health, I think he has to be super careful, because what I see visually is his blood circulation and
Mm,
blood pressure, and what I said a few months ago, or even a year ago when we talked about it. I just see the dangers of aneurysm, stroke, and heart attack. And I'm not wishing it on him or anyone. I seriously am not. I'm
yeah.
just reading the astrology of his chart. If I was his personal astrologer, I would be saying, take time out at the moment, rest,
Yeah.
take it easy, really just rest. I've got similar transits in my chart, which is
Yeah.
why I have to back off so much from my own
Di-
channel
Didn't you
and
have
not.
one of your back issues? Didn't you have one of your back issues with that transition?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, I have to be super careful, because at the moment I'm kind of running on overdrive because of the cat missing, and I need to
I
take a
know.
step back and rest. So
I
I
know.
slept 2 hours this afternoon.
George is okay. George is okay. Um, it's one of those things where the dangers of this for me. And listen, I'm gonna give Trump a lot of credit though. I'm
Yeah.
about to hand I'm about to, kind of tell it like it is. Jupiter moving through his 10th house is an infamous position. And if
Yes.
there's something to be disappointed in, it's what you do with that fame. It's
But but
it's it's
but Brandon, look, Jupiter is conjunct his north node and his sun. This is
that
success.
exactly. So when you're hearing astrologers say, "Hey, Trump is going to win this because of the astrology," okay, there it is, everybody. That's exactly where it is. The challenges of his health, though, are also undeniable equally.
Mm.
And what's interesting for me too is that I think that and when you, and we'll talk about this with Kamala's chart as well. There's an undeniable
Why can
rise right
I ask a
now in both of their
very
charts. A
I'm really
rise.
sorry to interrupt you, Brandon, but I'm very curious as to why Julie Q, to address you, Julie, why you are so unhappy with what Brandon says, because I think it's important to get to the root of that, because I think, Julie, you're holding a position which probably represents a large portion of society. And I think we have to honor that, respect it, and look at it.
I mean, okay. Listen,
So,
there's a human element to all of this too.
yeah.
And if you want me to be non-biased, I'm telling you this is what the chart is. If
Yeah.
you want me to be an upstanding citizen, I'm going to tell you none of that makes me feel good. What we've lived through,
Mm,
none of it, and it has to change.
mm,
And you can sit there and say, I've had a problem with the whole let's be an unbiased astrologer shit, quite frankly,
mm,
because I can talk about a chart and say in an unbiased way, this is what I'm saying. I just told you that Trump is actually leading himself into a time where he can be infamous. But how
yes.
is he going to become infamous?
Well, now there's
Hey,
the rub.
but as a citizen, I'm pro free will. I'm
Mm,
pro for give me the choice. Let me make the mistake. Let me have my way. But if you're leading the charge to do things like ban conversations like this and books and everything else, and don't say it's nonsense.
mm.
Page 43 of Project 2025, there are some of the most vile and non-human, like it puts us back to the Stone Age. Forget about the idea of taking
Bring,
women's
bring
rights
us,
away.
bring us up again and take the chart down. Bring us up again.
Yeah, because it's
'Cause I want to hear this. I want to hear
the
this.
the dynamic here that I think that we spiritual bypass stuff all the time. I refuse to say that I'm 100% neutral when, like, that would just be a feel
Even
good
you-
thing to be like, I'm just going to let things happen the way that they happen. And, I can predict it and I can tell you I was right. Right. But the quality of the person, I'm in the middle of it. And if you want to be truthful, if all these like, astrologers want to be like, and I'm completely unbiased, they've done two things. They've said to themselves, I don't have any stake in the game. Then they're not a good citizen. There's an astrologer that I've been watching off and on, and she ran away. She went to another country. I'll just leave it at that. Because she's like, "Oh yeah, there's going to be turmoil there." I'm sorry, what? The second thing that we tend to do is we just say, "Well, we give our power away and say, well, it's in the stars. It's in God's hands. It's whatever." Bullshit. The things that go together, the things that go together here are our free will, our choices, our decisions, and then our actions. The astrology is laying out there to say that you have to get mad. And we're not just talking about the people that are trying to like dictate things to us. You also have to get mad. You also have to use your power in the way that you feel to do it. By the way, power is still loving and kindness. It can be. It doesn't have to be this, oh, we're going to get the upper hand and teach them a lesson. Get that crap out of your head. That's part of the problem. Our power is to say, I'm sovereign. Our power is to say, I want to be able to make choices. I want to be able to do what it is that I want to do.
Mm,
This conflict and the idea that we hang our hats at the door and we don't bother standing up for ourselves. It's like the quandary that I'm having is I can't give up my place at the table for the sake of bias or unbiased. And know in my heart where I feel like things are going. And it's headed for a conflict. And every single person listening has to make up your mind. Where do you stand? The fact that there's undecided voters right now is insane to me. Like, you
Yeah.
haven't seen enough. Like, how much more are you looking for? Right?
Mm.
It's kind of like waiting till like just before the credits and going, I don't really know if I like the movie or not. There are
Or
some
whether
movies out there like that. What's that?
and whether you want to see the movie or not. And
You're not
also,
sure if you're going to walk out yet or not.
yeah, I think that what I'm picking up from what you're saying, Brandon, and I respect everything you're saying, is the fact that what we're forgetting is we're all human and
Sure.
fallible. We are all. What about free speech and free thinking? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, wasn't that what the US kind of credo was? Free speech, free thinking, free people? Isn't that what it's all about? Are we not allowed nowadays to
Yeah.
have our opinion, our view, and air it? Yes, as an astrologer, I see my job to try
Yeah.
to my best ability to be neutral, but I'm human. How can I be totally neutral?
And Penny, let's have a moment of honesty here. You see something horrific in somebody's chart. I'm just going to use the word horrific. Are you going to rip the Band-Aid off, or are you going to say to them, hey, I'm sorry, Tuesday doesn't look good, right? No, we don't do that. By the way, you become biased automatically because you've invoked an emotion. And being, oh yeah, you're biased or you're unbiased. Save that crap for those show tune like news channels, like whatever.
Yeah. Can
When it
I
comes
can I
to humans, you should be biased.
let me interject with something because I know Andy's watching. And Andy, and you will understand this perfectly, and it's not betraying any confidences. I'm glad the date's changed. She'll
The
understand what.
dates. Oh, okay,
No,
there you go.
she'll just understand. I'm glad the date changed. She'll
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, and it's
Okay. Andy was due to have surgery on Friday the 25th.
yep.
Okay. And my gut feeling was, don't like this.
Hmm. So what you're saying is that you're a biased astrologer because you gave her advice to not be harmed.
I said, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be very challenging,
But
as it
isn't that
was.
bias?
Go ahead that day.
Hold on a second. You care about Andy.
Yes, very much.
Okay. I care about Andy. We've known Andy for a long time.
Yeah.
You ready? You're biased because you looked out for your best interest. I'm
Yeah.
biased about this election because I care about this freaking country.
Yeah. And so do I care about your country because it affects the whole world.
I heard you're coming to New York.
Could be a possibility in the near future.
I just wanted to start a rumor. I love it. Let's
Oh,
let's wrap up Trump's chart and then we'll tackle
now
Kamala really quick.
Let's look at Kamala with the Mars Pluto opposition.
Yeah, this is interesting too. This is also, and by the way, both charts are about both Trump and Kamala's charts are about a rise to power for a person. It's a rise to fame. It's a rise to going supernova in the public realm.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, it's funny. Hey, Real Sky, I see your note about Project 2025. I appreciate your opinion.
Hi,
I have
Susan.
come to it. I have come to a different conclusion because I've done not only the proper research, but I've actually read the document. And I'm here to tell you that the lineage between the political parties and the Heritage Foundation goes as far back as Reagan. It has been a back pocket thing. And it is not, if you enjoy your conspiracies, you need to acknowledge that the things that are right on top, it doesn't need to
No,
be conspiracy to be an act. Just telling you. Um, did Brandon spill the beans on your plans, Penny? Oh,
no,
maybe.
Puna. No.
Maybe. She's going to open up a cat sanctuary. All right, Kamala. Kamala,
Come
election day.
on. Here we have uh, Kamala. Is it Kamala or Kamala? It's Kamala, isn't
It's
it?
Kamala. So think
Kamala.
Kamala, right?
Kamala. Okay, let's go straight for the jugular and the Mars-Pluto opposition in the second eighth house.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the second eighth house of her chart. So this is a big deal. And the
Huge
Mars-Pluto
deal.
opposition is exact on the 3rd of November, which is 2 days before the election. And so I think we're going to see the jittery markets leading up to the 5th. Now, the 5th is actually a Tuesday, isn't it? So I
Always a
think the
Tuesday.
are
First
going
Tuesday in November.
so the markets are going to end this coming week on Friday. I think it's going to be a little bit of a downturn, and I think there's going to be events happening in the world. And I'm just picking this up psychically. I think stuff's going to be going on in the world that is going to start to disrupt, and it's like we're going into an ocean of turmoil, and everything is going to be flying about all over the place. And what's going to be happening is the markets are going to downturn towards the end of this week. And Nikki, if you're watching, listen out. I think it's only going to be safe bets that one should put one's money into. Don't create a scare and sell. Actually, do nothing. Steer a steady ship. We will get through this and we will come out the other end stronger. And those that keep a steady hand on it and do not panic about what they may have in terms of assets will win through at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing is by leading up to the election on the Monday, the markets are going to open having had probably 2-point drop. Okay. I used to work in the markets. That's why I know a little bit about it. I trained as a
Mhm.
money broker, would you believe? I was
I
very good at the
totally
business.
believe it. I totally believe it.
I only understand it now. I didn't understand it at the time. Now I understand it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you worked in it. Oh, so the '80s were your fault. Okay. All this
Yes.
time I thought it was greed and
It's
cocaine,
all
but
those
no,
gin
apparently it
and
was Penny.
it was the big gin and tonics I kept having around New York. Because
The
I
top
used to
floor.
live in
I know, that's why
New
I welcomed you back.
York. Coming back to the chart, again, we've got mutability on all the quadrants, which is interesting. So I think for Kamala, I think she is going to be being very philosophical about all the events leading up to, and actually putting her hand on the rudder of the ship and holding what is really shaking violently, like, going through this rough ocean. And she's kind of holding on to that wheel,
Right.
trying to make sure that everything doesn't go down. Does that make
And
sense?
listen, I wanna chime in here about the Tumulsion too. Go finish your thought, though.
No, because I just think that what happens over the next 10 days is key. And I
Well,
think it's what happens on the rest of the planet.
I pay close attention to Jupiter in these things, and she
Right.
has a ton of leadership in her chart. She really does. She also has a lot of empathetic things. I think she also has an evolving career. She has Vesta in her 10th house. And the fact that she is a Leo, Mars Leo, just like Trump, like they have a lot of offsetting qualities. Hers is in the third, and it's ironic that, like, she gets pegged for a lot of like communication issues. Part of it is because she's so many steps ahead of it. It's actually a sign of intelligence sometimes. But in this chart specifically, we bring up the mutable component again, where the rising Sagittarius at the 0 is going right through her 6th house. Well, when you
Mm,
look at the AC and the DC line, when you look at the ascending part of this, you have Jupiter on her ascending. That's a
yeah,
pull into the public spotlight. The fact that it's in the 12th house, though, makes me pump my brakes. The
yeah,
fact that she has on her descending having the moon and Venus straddling it here,
yeah,
I give
yeah,
this edge to her, though, with those positions because her 7th house having the moon in it is critical in terms of, like, winning over people.
it's her sixth house.
Well, with Venus, but with the moon in the 7th house,
Where?
is her
Where?
winning over people and so forth and
Where's
so on.
the moon?
It's also keeping her base.
The moon isn't in her 7th house.
It is in the chart. No, no,
No,
no,
it's not.
not her natal, in her transition.
No, it's not. Sorry to argue with you. It's not. It's in the 6th house.
Her moon. The
Her
moon,
moon,
not her moon. I'm sorry, the moon. I said
her
it
moon
wrong.
is in Sagittarius in the 6th house.
Okay.
Oh, how have you got? Oh, you've got it on election day. I've got it on Mars Pluto opposition. Sorry.
Okay.
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 Mistake.
So we're not.
Day. Okay, I've got election. Yep,
So
moon's in the.
you understand why I'm saying that now then.
Sorry, darling. Sorry, darling. Do you
That's
still
okay.
love me?
I
Do you still love
I
me
will
for as
always love you. I even love you when you call me the wrong
well as
name.
you?
So, but the thing that scares the living bejesus out of me, by the way, this is me being non-biased if you're still watching. The fact that that Uranus is going through her 12th house and is conjunct to her Jupiter right now is the most
Algol
unpredictable thing ever.
and Algol.
And Algol's in her 12th house, which by the way is just a red flag carnival to me.
Mm,
Just being honest.
mm,
And, could it mean the unpredictability of like, surprise, it's a woman, she's in charge now? Sure.
mm,
Could it also mean she might have some very nefarious she might be fronting something very kind of nefarious? Kind of. She might be unstabilizing things. But whether it's Trump or whether it's Kamala,
mm.
whether
Yeah.
it's Harris, the energy is prime for change and
She
prime for a
interesting.
safe dose of chaos.
Yeah, interestingly, she also needs to watch her health because
Yeah, talk about that too, because fair game to her too.
Saturn is conjunct her Chiron. She
Yeah.
she could break a bone,
Hmm.
skeleton. That
Yeah.
skeleton.
Careful in those heels. Like, I'm not being derogatory here, but
You know,
careful.
I think she's got to be. I think it's almost like, let's take the symbolism of that, the metaphor. She needs to walk before she runs. Does that make
Mm.
sense? She really needs to slow down.
Can
Saturn
we
is trying
afford
to
that?
slow down. Saturn is saying, hey, baby, slow down. One thing at a time,
Yeah.
one step at a time. Like my techie Jerry says, slow and steady wins the race.
You know, I saw nothing but turtles this morning. I had a turtle on the road.
A turtle?
A turtle like 3 times. I saw a picture of a turtle. Slow down. I saw a picture um, of a lot of different things. Yeah, and Kamala's actually somebody just commented, "Hey, Judith, how are you?" Kamala's in her Saturn return. Her Saturn return has already happened because
Yeah, yeah,
it's already there. She's kind of in the aftercloud of it. She's in the wake of it.
yeah.
And, coming up in her Chiron is also, and I'm going to tell you why somebody that's gone through a second Saturn return can be a very good leader. When you go through the first Saturn return, you're still kind of you're in that component of, at 24 you have the Jupiter return. Then between 24 and 29 and a half, you're getting ready to make things concrete. So you've tried a lot of things, you've worked a lot of things. There is also an astrological reason for the 27 club because of this. Jupiter and Saturn really play off of one another. However, when Saturn goes through its second return, Jupiter is near conjunct to this in its fifth return for you. This is when you've really gotten savvy with what you know. And I don't know how you guys are, but I kind of like it when people make mistakes and they go, yeah, I can't do it that way again. Or, yeah, I've goofed that up. If there's an intrinsic flaw, I mean, come on, this should be like Mistake Central. Like, go ahead and pull up our resume from 1986 to 98. It kind of, there's a lot of shit in there.
Bye, Andy. See you soon. I'm going to try and do a live tomorrow, my love.
Good to
Can
see
I
you,
get
Andy.
your attention, Jupiter? Jupiter. Can I? Hey, you're Mr. Jupiter. Hey,
You're Miss
Brandon, can
Saturn.
I bring your attention to the fact that Kamala, in when Jupiter goes direct in, I think it's January, is going to have Jupiter on her ascendant. That is really, really big stuff. Good luck news
Well,
in January.
it speaks to the infamous part of her chart. You know, the
Yeah.
same thing with Jupiter being in, Trump's, 10th house. Having this in her ascending moves it from kind of the diciness to the assuredness of the first house.
Mhm.
And don't forget too that first house is so critical to
Yeah.
your independence, to your sovereignty, to who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bet you bottoms to dollar. I know we've got a Jupiter retrograde coming up, but
It's already retrograde. I just want to look to see when Jupiter goes on her ascendant, because that's going
yeah,
to be,
because it's got to be close.
yeah,
It's got to
it's
be
going to
close.
be roundabout, because that'll be big for her.
Let me guess,
Uh,
January 20th.
sorry?
Let me guess, January 20th, 21st.
No, no. It's going to be, hold on.
I love that
It's
you
going
go
to
old school with this.
be May 2025 is a very good month for her. And from then on, all through her first house.
Maybe it
May
takes that long to declare the election. You know,
Pink Lady is saying, will Kamala win both the House and the Senate? I don't think we can possibly say.
but I will.
I mean,
I
I just think that nothing is going to be clear cut, and nothing is going to be, and we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we've got about 5 minutes left of our broadcast.
yeah. Yeah, I
And
mean,
I
I'm
don't,
going to be bold here and give a prediction.
okay,
I
go
think
on then.
this is going to be one of the most clear-cut voice rendering decisions ever made through voting. And then I think every technicality will be called out. I think every vote will be subject to question. I think
Mhm.
chaos and mayhem will be, but it's a process that I think we have to go through. Um, I think that it will be a no-brainer, and because of that, then the opposition will say, "There's no way those results are like that. There's no way the polling was 50-50." There is so much dialogue that is sculpted in what ifs. And by the way, guys, I talk to dead people for a living, and I'm here to tell you, you need to base all of this in the most decent reality you can have. Go ahead.
Brand, try and answer Deb Ruggles, because I think that's quite interesting what she said.
Um,
So what are
is
you saying,
don't use
Brand?
the astrology as an excuse to do
Yes,
nothing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you are you in it or aren't you? And by the way, if you go in there and you vote for Trump on your specific values and what you believe in, I
And
want you to
his
remember that you had a choice that day.
and his
If you go in
policy.
there and you vote for Kamala, you had a choice that day. That's the only thing I really want you to recognize
Nobody is
because it's
talking
going to be
about
vastly different.
nobody is talking about the policies of either party. Surely that has to come into this decision somewhere for the American people?
I the party, I freaking love that. Excuse me. I'm all over the place on that one. I am
Because
ecstatic at that. I the people, I the party of the sovereign nation of Brandon, which by the way is the definition of the age of Aquarius that we're barreling towards. Personal sovereignty into your own actions. And by the way, we have relied too far on the peer pressure of others to do the right thing. We just have. Why do we act like this? Oh, my mother told me to do it this way. Oh, why don't you go out and philander and blah, blah, blah. Oh, because I'm in this, committed relationship. You're relying on other things to make you whole. Why not say, because this is my core value and this is what I believe in, so I'm not going to hurt another person, right?
yeah,
One of the most powerful things that we have is when you see the polite idea that somebody can be sovereign in a seat. One of the challenges of all of this, and again, this isn't me being biased, when Trump flat out says, I want people that are going to be yes men for me, that's a problem because what you're doing is that you don't have one of the reasons why Penny and I work so well together is that we disagree on a ridiculous amount of things. It's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, we argue about it from being female and male. We argue about it with being different generations. We argue about it because, European and the US. We like our dichotomy is part of what our tension is, and it's awesome for a whole host of reasons.
I would suggest, because we need to finish, people start being allowed to think for themselves, choose to think for themselves, that we allow ourselves to have free thought and free speech, because isn't that what the planet's about? Killing people and children is wrong. Killing animals is wrong. Being cruel to others is wrong. The parameters are so clear, and it's about, where is the love? Where is the love for and the respect for one's country, for the planet, for each other? We need to start respecting each other and allow ourselves to have differences. What's wrong with thinking differently? Just saying.
Listen, and it's funny. I had the love sign. I brought my love sign to my stage show last night, and it was the centerpiece of the background. And there's a
Oh,
reason why I carry that. It's like I have a cousin that's full on support of the other person, and I'm like, okay,
yes, see me
there's
in
still my
territories.
cousin. I still love him to death. We still have history. We still have the things when we grew up and blah 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 all that other stuff. And it took me a while to, he can't for whatever reason figure out why I'm so silly and stupid and whatever. But I've also adopted 3 kids.
I
I've
know.
also, I also do a lot of pro bono things because people have lost their children or their cats. And without a doubt, I say, yeah, sure, what can I do?
And do you think George will come back? That we'll
Hun,
manage to get him?
I stand behind everything I've said. Once that first weather cold night comes, once that Tunisian breeze goes away, listen, he's a hunter, hun. Maybe part of this is you realizing that he's an amazing cat and you were lucky enough to know him, and now he's living his best life
Yeah,
in an
yeah.
abandoned garage, and the mice are scared of him.
I feel I've let him down.
You haven't though. Are you kidding me? You gave him safe passage for how long?
A year.
And meanwhile, he's just, he's developing a tick going, I want to chase stuff. I want to go hunting. I want to find out what's under that rock.
I
I want to
rehomed
whatever.
it, thought it was best for him. And now me and Jerry feel absolutely shit about it, because he broke out of Jerry's home.
Well, and listen though, here's the conversation. Jerry was the conduit, and that's okay.
But I've
Listen,
grown so much. I have learned so much, and I'll talk about it in my live tomorrow, which
I
is going
love
to
it.
be 3 hours difference change tonight. I'll just do a bit of advertising.
Segway
And
queen.
if you if you want a session with me, go to my website, pennydix.com. And if you want a session with Brandon, because he's absolutely friggin' awesome, go to his website and book with him. And join us for another live that we will do post-election. Our
Yes.
post, we haven't set the date yet, but it'll be a post-election special.
Yeah.
And I will be doing my live tomorrow, unless George suddenly decides that he wants to come home, and then I will be going to pick him up. So whether I do a live tomorrow is up to George, the cat, red tabby. Here he
Penny,
goes, though. Look at him, please.
Penny, I love you. Your affection for this cat is beyond words, and it is what every pet owner should have for their beloved cat.
I've learned
If it
so
was a
much.
if it was a dog, I'd say, I mean, let's be honest, like dogs don't always have the best skills out in the wild. They become kind of scavengers, but cats can really be self-sufficient.
I
I'm
know.
telling you, when the weather changes is when he'll show up, okay, hon?
Thank you, my
Have I
darling.
been wrong yet?
No, no.
Love you for that. All right, guys.
Love.
Kate, can we give everybody a heart tap? Hard tap, everybody. Thanks so much for watching us. Be sure to like
Yeah.
and subscribe both of our channels. We have different content. We refer to each other's stuff all the time. I'm going to actually start doing penny analysis videos.
I love it.
But you know who would laugh at that is Trish. Trish the Navigator is going to go like, she always gives me a rundown and she's always like spot on. She's just like spot freak on.
Kay gets upset with us because
What's wrong?
I'd like Julie K or Julie Q. I'm upset that she gets upset with us because we're just trying to do our best.
You know, I used to get hung up on making sure everybody was happy. And
Yeah.
everybody around me was happy and I was miserable. So as much as I respect that she has an opinion about that, I'm going to politely tell you, tough toenails, get your own channel. And I'll tune in and I will sniper comment on you and have a great day. I mean, listen, Penny,
I'm too sensitive.
it's time to be grown up about our opinions. It's time to be able to substantiate what we do and how we do it. I've made mistakes, but I've led a pretty good life. I help a lot of people. Do I miss sometimes? 100%. I'm human. Is my intention always in the right place? Yeah. Did I have to learn how that looked? Sure. We have to be as authentic as we can be, even if we're wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And
Thank you,
that's
Deb.
how we have to roll. That's our lesson right now. That's the astrological challenge right now. Are you going to be authentic when you're angry? Are you going to be authentic? Are you going to be motivated and swayed easily? Are you going to be able to be decided upon? Are you going to give away your power? This is heavy stuff.
And integrity, as I think Poonam said, or Simi, one of you said about integrity. And that's really what has been lacking everywhere.
So here you go. You ready? We are
Yeah.
biased. We're biased to integrity. We're biased on seeing the right thing happen. We're biased to free will. We're biased. We're biased to the idea that people can make a mistake and not get crucified for it.
Yeah. Judith's just asking, answer that one quickly. Brandon, do you still feel that Trump will leave the USA yet?
Hold on a second. I see a few of you like noticed my hair too. I'm really growing it out here.
I love it.
Donald J. Trump will leave this country. I have said it 6 ways to Sunday. He has had a plan in place for the better part of, if you go back, I think it was May of last year that I talked about him leaving. And I am telling you, post-election, loses the election, he's going to take a flight to Saudi Arabia and he's never going to step foot in this country again because that's where his money is. He does not give a rat's ass about this country. And if he does, his actions don't prove it. He is 100% grifted on every single foreign country that he can possibly get his hands on, which is why Nostradamus talked about an irreverent connection between the United States and Russia and unlikely brethren. He was actually talking about this right here. But anyways, I digress. Will he leave the country? Hell to the yes. Hard tap. Get me out of here. I love you guys. Love you, Penny. I'll talk to you guys soon. Keep going. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.